Hey everybody, it's Miss Adine, and today I'm doing a drawing with different colored pencils. They're Derwent, and some of them are Light Fast, which are really smooth and silky, and others are the Derwent Artist, which are a little bit harder, and some Color Soft mixed in. They're all the same brand though, and I'm just making some designs. And I'm also going to be using some markers in different kinds and seeing how the materials work together. So I use some, here is the micro pens. And this one has a wide tip, almost like a calligraphy, so it can make wide or narrow depending on how you work it. And I'm just adding some lines. I really like the tip on this pen and how you can do narrow and wide all at once. So here I'm using some watercolor paints. And they don't really make the markers bleed. They sort of, the Indian ink pens just sort of stay put. And I like the way the color pencil and the markers and the paint look together. It's a nice mix of textures. And adding different colors and layering. And some nice lines. I really like the way mixed media looks together. I like adding really bright colors and different designs everywhere. Now when I started, I had no idea what I was going to do. So here's more of the color pencil. And you can see that it has a different texture than the paint. So it's sort of really fun to get to use different materials all together. I have a love of all art supplies. I love the way they feel. Oh, and there's Sleepy telling me to take a pause. They do this all the time. They just come and lie on top of everything you're working on until they get the attention they need, and then they kind of wander off. It's just what they do. So here I'm back. I'm using some more of the microfiber. They're graphic markers, and they're just fine liners in different colors. I'm going to see if I can put together a supply list of what I use for this and put it in the description below. It might be a little later than the video though. And I really like the point on these. They have a nice point. They're not scratchy. They go across the paper nicely. They don't really bleed. They don't go through the back of the paper unless it's really, really thin paper. You don't need special paper to work with them. And they're great for details. So here I'm just adding lines and connecting all my little circles together. They remind me a little bit of flowers. It wasn't, my intention when I started, but I like the way this picture's evolving and looking really sort of bright and cheery. And there's a lot of movement with the lines. So I try to, I work in my sketchbook almost every day. I don't film most of it. I'm going to try to put one up each week. I do it because, because I love to make art, and making art keeps me feeling happy and alive, especially while we're sort of home a lot. And I love the way these lines look against each other, and they're so fine and little against the big stripes with all the different colors. So, and And these markers, I bought a set of them from Amazon, and they have like just so many different tips and colors in them. A lot of blacks in different sizes, and some mixed colors thrown in. Here's the black one, and I love the way they overlap, and they just look so nice. It's one of my favorite fine liners. Add some little swirlies. And then this is a paint marker, and it's a metallic blue, and they're the deco color. And I didn't actually think it was going to work because I've had this lying around for like a year. But even after a year of, you know, being closed on my shelf and opening it, it wasn't dry. And a lot of times paint markers dry out in between using them. But this brand seems to still work really nicely no matter, you know, as long as you keep the cap on. So this is another paint marker. And they just go on so nice and thick, and they have nice colors. These are the Uni paint markers. It's the, I think it's the same brand as my fine liners. So you can see that like I'm adding paint markers and different color pencils and paint. And it's starting to come together and look really nice. And I like that, you know, some colors are so thick and rich and vibrant, and others are like just thin and more fine detailed, and you have to look a little bit closer to see them. One of my favorite things to do is to layer color and texture and put patterns in. So, and I'm just going back and forth between different colors. This is a really light color paint marker. It looks a little bit darker in person than it does on the film or on the video, but I like that pale blue. Now I'm just going over with some alcohol markers and filling in some of these little stripes. Now what I did notice is alcohol markers will sort of blend and smear a colored pencil, where an ink marker, an Indian ink marker, won't make the colored pencil bleed or smear. So it depends on what you want. Like if you wanted your colored pencils to be more blendy and smeary and use an alcohol marker, that will do it. I like using an Indian ink pen, a Pitt pen from Faber-Castell, if I'm going to be using them together so that they don't smear. Here I'm working between the fine liners, so I don't have to worry about that. And I love these bright colors, the way they look next to each other. So the ones I'm using right now are the Pitt markers, the ink markers. So you can see the alcohol ink is the brown and the yellow, and these markers here are the Faber-Castell, the Pitt markers. And now I'm using a little bit more colored pencil in and around them. And they both have like nice vibrant colors, but they look a little different. Even if they were in the same colors, it's a different kind of ink. And different brands might, you know, their colors are different. They all have a special formula. So sometimes I like to have the same color marker in different brands because it gives you a little bit more variety without trying to blend them. And filling it in. And this is one of the light fast color pencils by Derwent, and they are super creamy. They just go on the paper so nicely. You don't need a lot of pressure to get a deep, smooth color. They're just lovely to work with. So, and this color pencil doesn't go on as creamy than the other one, but they're still really nice. I love all the Derwent pencils. My first set of color pencils were the Derwent, and that was a really long time ago. And I still have a couple of them left. So here I'm using a gel pen, and I'm adding just a little bit of dots and patterns on top of my colored pencils. And some lines. And I like the way it looks because they're really, some of them are just really highly reflective, the gel pens. So they look either more silver or more gold depending on the light, even though they are like colored. Like I love this like, you know, hot yellow green color that looks on the brown. It just brings out so much life. And these are just the jellies. And they're just nice pens to work with. And what I do notice is that like they're the same brand as my fine liners and some of my paint markers. And some brands just have really high quality materials that feel good in your hand. Now this here is a different paint marker. It's an ink paint marker, so they're not as shiny as the other paint markers, which are an acrylic base. And they're the Derwent liners. They're called the Liner Painter. It's the package is on the side. And again, it's like just really nice colors. And the ink is a completely different ink because it's an ink-based paint. So you can actually use it with watercolors and they'll mix better when they're all wet. But they are a lot of fun. Now I just got these. I think they're a newer product, so I have no idea how, you know, how long they last, and I, you know, just opened them for the first time. But I really love the way these go down. They're really easy to start to work. You just shake them and push the tip down for a minute and they go. And here I'm back to that metallic acrylic paint pen, the Deco Color, which are really nice pens. They don't have such fine tips. They're a little thicker. But I like the way the color sits on the paper and that slight gloss they have. You know, you can see between the two, the fine liner paint pens are much thinner and they're a flatter color. And I like mixing a lot of different materials and brands together. I think this is coming out really nice and bright and happy. There's a lot of movement and fun in it. And this is a lot of what I like to do when I'm just playing with my materials. You know, I might not have any ideas that I want to work on. I might just want to sit and work with color. So I just pile up a lot of, you know, use the stuff that I keep on my desk and work it all together. Different markers, different paints, and color pencils. You know, one of the first things I do when I buy color pencils is take them right out of the box and throw them in a flatware container so that they're just out and handy to use. So I never have to take my materials out. They're just always handy and within reach. And it makes, you know, cleaning up really easy because there's nothing ever to like put away. It's just in a bin I can put on the shelf and everything's right there. So, and I really like this blue gel pen from the Jellies. And there are 3 different blues here. It's hard to see, and now I'm using a red in there with it. And they really have a nice glow to them. And that's the thing about having different markers and different brands and different materials, is they work differently together on top of each other and below each other, and you can add nice details, you know, very easily. And this is a Uniball white gel pen, and it really works well. And I just keep layering more and more and more. And with these drawings, you can go on forever. You can just keep working and working it and working it. But I think this is where I'm gonna stop now. I think this is looking pretty nicely. I'll post another one next Sunday, and we'll see what I do. Have a really, really great day.